Good morning, YouTube. Today is July 30th. That makes it a Tuesday. It makes it probably the last episode of the month. How are we doing, fellas?
Good morning.
Good
Just
morning.
hanging at Tom's house. He asked me to come over, help him change diapers.
Nice. Get on that piano, bro. Welcome back.
It was a rough night last night over here. So yeah, Anthony, he's up in the living room. I came down to the office. He's helping out with TJ. Natalie, she had to run around this morning, so it's good to have number one over here helping out.
That's nice. Teamwork makes the dream work. But yes, boys, we're end of July. Pennsylvania has moved up the timeline. We are now 9 days away from real estate changes. Luckily, you've come to the right spot. We have it all under control for you. We understand how you should move forward. I think we're wrapping our heads around the new rules. So we're going to get into it pretty quickly today. We good with that?
Go with whatever you want.
All right. So August 9th, August 8th, whatever date, this is all starting now. The lawsuit says they want commissions decoupled. So since the Stone Age, practically, the seller has paid the buyer's broker commission and their own commission. That's ending. It seems to me, from what I'm hearing, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, it seems to me it's going to become common very quickly for a seller to pay only the 3% to their agent, and then they are going to wait until the offers come in from the buyer to see what the buyer is requesting. The buyer may request nothing from the seller. They may have all their own funds. They may pay their own closing costs, their down payment, their agent commission. They may ask for nothing. Now, maybe that purchase price comes in a little bit lower. That's up to the buyer's agent. You also may have a buyer that comes in. They might be an FHA buyer. They're going to ask for 3% of the commission be paid by the seller, and they're going to ask for 6% seller assistance, just like it is today. That's allowed to happen. It's just the seller isn't giving it up front anymore. The buyer has to ask for it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got out of the whole, training the last couple of weeks, as well as that in-depth training yesterday. That was a very good training yesterday that our company did put on. So that is my understanding as well. It's going to just have to be asked for. It's not saying that the seller is not going to pay buyer agent commission. You just have to put in your offer and negotiate it out. Best offer will win. And you're just going to have to put your best foot forward on every offer.
Absolutely. So when you're putting in your offer, when you're getting pre-approved, right? We're trying to get into this with buyers. Can you afford it? Can you not afford it? Even if you can afford it, do you want to pay it? Maybe you want that seller to still pay it and you want your agent to put that offer in. But at pre-approval, Anth, we're going to get into this. We're going to try to show numbers as accurate as possible. And we're here to work with agents and buyers to make sure they know what those final costs are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important that the agent up front talks to the client about what their, negotiated fee is going to be, because once we get into pre-approval, we have to ask those pertinent questions, because we have to verify those funds and make sure the client can actually move forward with the purchase with any additional costs that they're going to incur for the real estate agent commission. So, I mean, it's very important because a lot of people don't realize, hey, we have to verify these funds. We do. We have to verify where they came from. We have to verify these statements, that they have the funds, and that they're going to have enough money to cover closing and commissions altogether.
That's a good point. And also on that too, some of these loan programs that we are running, we need reserves on them, 6 months reserves, 3 months reserves. So yeah, that commission can cut into those reserves, and we could also run into an issue there. That's a qualifying problem on our end that we need to work through. But that's why we need to know what your commission is so we can run through those problems.
And we all know on the mortgage side, when buyers find out they can shop and they understand they're allowed to shop for their real estate agent compared to what the commission is going to do or be, they're probably going to shop a little bit. They're probably going to call a couple real estate agents. I don't know. It seems like there was this phrase out there for all these years to call 3 lenders. get pre-approved by 3 lenders. Why isn't that going to be the same on the real estate side? What if that buyer calls 3 real estate agents and shops all of you? You as a real estate agent, are you going to say 3% or nothing? Or are you going to negotiate and shop with that buyer? I don't think any of us know, but I know we can see it on the mortgage side, how often buyers shop around, and it can be for $100 they're shopping around, which it's absolutely their right to do. I don't think the real estate side is going to get away from shopping, and I just want real estate agents to be aware of that and prepared for that.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the new thing, is going to be shopping agents interviewing them. I know listing buyers or homeowners that list their houses with agents, they do shop a few different listing agents. I think that's going to be the same way for buyers. You're going to have to put your best foot forward, show why you're valuable, as well as show them your fee to let them know, hey, I am cheaper and I'm going to be more valuable. I mean, I'd say 9, maybe 8 out of 10 deals that we get currently as lenders are shopped. So it's happening on 80% of deals coming in are getting shopped. So I just don't see how that's not going to be the same on every end.
And there is the rules are not changing. If you're a buyer's agent, you can still ask the seller to pay your commission, even though the buyer's going, the buyer has to sign a BAC saying, hey, here's how much you're going to get paid. You can still ask the seller to pay for it. That didn't go away. It's just, it's not automatic now.
Yeah, no, all good points. And I think it's just going to have to slow down a little bit possibly and take your time. Think about the offer you're putting in. Think about what you're doing for your seller. Think about what you're doing for your buyer. And just slow down, take your time. We don't need to put the house on the market Saturday at 10 a.m. and have a highest and best by Sunday at 3 a.m. listing agents. Come on now. That doesn't need to happen. Let's be smart and let's do this right.
That's great. Great point, Tom. Now, the flip side of it, obviously, we're having the real estate changes coming in 9 days. The shopping we see all the time, it always starts with interest rate. And we have talked about this and talked about this and talked about this. If you are only shopping your interest rate when you are shopping for your home loan, you're just not doing it right. There are more questions to ask than what is your interest rate? Because as we've said before, a lot of times the interest rate range that a lender has can be dependent of the cost. So here we are. We have a quick example here of which interest rate is better. And you would look at this and maybe the average Joe would laugh at me and say, well, Ryan, that's a dumb question. Obviously, 6% is better than 6.5%. Guys, I'm not a dummy either. Common sense does say that. Yep, that's true. The lower interest rate is better. But when it comes to mortgages, there is a cost associated with every single rate. The 6.5% rate has no extra cost. The 6% rate has an extra cost. In our mortgage world, an extra cost is called a point. A point is 1% of the loan amount. So to get 6% instead of 6.5%, the buyer has to pay 2 points for this scenario right at the bottom there. It's an extra $3,800. So now let's re-ask the question. Do you want to pay 6.5% with no extra cost, or do you want to pay 6% with a $3,800 extra cost? Tom.
In this scenario, I think I would pay the higher interest rate than pay, the extra cost, looking at that last little piece you have there with the break even.
Well, let's get into it. So it's a difference of $61.81 a month. So even at a 0.5% difference, $61 a month isn't going to be a huge savings or a huge cost. That's going to be your decision. But it's the break-even point. And this is where buyers, we're not here flipping a coin saying if this is a good option for them or not. At $3,800, It's 61.81 a month. The break even point ends up being about 61 and a half months. So that's 5 years. You have to live in this house until you start seeing any benefit. Now, if you're in the house for 30 years and you never refinance, that means you got 25 years of savings. That's pretty darn good. But you're not going to have that savings until 5 years. So if a buyer tells us that, hey, we only plan on being in this house for 2 years, or we're going to move within 5 years, or we plan on having 3 kids and this house will be too small, that's when we would say, okay, pause. I know you want the lowest interest rate, but it doesn't make sense if you're not going to be in the house for 5 years because you're never going to recoup that cost of $3,800 that it costs to get that rate.
Yeah, you hear TJ up there screaming right now. He's like, "Don't do the points. You don't want the points right now on this one." So I think that was well explained, and it's going to be different for every buyer.
Yes,
It's really got to be tailored to them.
some buyers want the lowest rate that they can get. They don't want to hear break evens, right, Anth? They just want the lowest rate. But we need to let buyers know that they're paying for that rate. And if they don't know they're paying, that's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely some questions that got to get asked when somebody's paying points. You know, like you were saying, like how long are you going to live in the house? I mean, for example, it depends. I mean, I'm on the fence. I'm leaning towards paying the points. You know, the reason being is, you know, if you're saving $3,800 in 5 years, if a client's going to keep the loan for 15, right, and just pay it off, you know, then they're going to save $7,600 over the remaining 10 years. So it's a positive. But I know most people, you know, today are thinking, hey, I'll just refinance. Well, if you refinance, it's going to cost you more than $3,800 to be able to get 6%. You know, so it's definitely a toss-up. Every situation is going to be different, like Tom said. But I think that those are the questions that need to be asked in this type of scenario. What is the person doing, you know, to game plan it properly? Because refinancing in 5 years might not be the best option. It might be better just to pay those points up front, save the money now, and then you don't have to worry about refinancing, and it's going to cost you less. So,
And we cannot predict the future market of when refinancing will happen, if it will happen, how low the rates will go to make the refinance worth it. That's all up in the air. That is hard to buy a home hoping that a refinance is going to happen. We want you to buy the home and feel comfortable with the payment now. If refinance opportunities come up, that's a win-win for everyone. But don't buy a home counting on a refinance in a couple years, because that is a way to get burned, and we don't want that to happen. For the biggest purchase of your life, you shouldn't be praying and hoping. You should look at the numbers, make sure it works, and then if a refinance happens, it's better down the road.
yeah, just look at the last 2 years, man. How many lenders, you know, told people, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to refinance you into the 5s next year.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't happened yet.
Nope, but don't worry. 2025 will be that year.
A lot of arms are coming due. I know that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Great convo today. We'll get back at it Friday. We'll see you then, and good talking to you.
Enjoy
See
the
you guys.
rain, boys.
See ya.